Hello, this is Sonia Booker, and I am so delighted to be here today. And many, many thanks for the Savvy Ladies Network. I remember when I discovered Savvy Ladies and all that they do and have going on for the financial literacy and wealth accumulation for women. I was totally sold on being a part of it. So I'm really excited to be here today with you, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. And we're going to do what's called demystifying wealth building, because I believe that wealth building does not have to be hard. It's something that we do have to be mindful of as females, because there's so much that we're faced with, there's so much that we're building wealth with. And so what I've done is kind of comprise these 7 basic truths of wealth building. And these have just been some things that I've done in my life. And as a 20-year entrepreneur, I've seen, a lot of things that have helped me to make better decisions. And as I, wrote books, I wrote a book called Real Estate and Wealth, Investing in the American Dream. And one of the things that I had a lot of people asking me about was, how do I build wealth with real estate? And as I began to ponder that question and really, start answering it for a lot of people, I realized that it wasn't just real estate. It wasn't all just real estate that helped me in building my wealth. There were some other principles and some other things that I had to do in order to gain favorable interest rates to build my real estate portfolio, or, stay out of debt, different things like that. So we're going to talk about those. And at the end of this webinar, I'm going to tell you where you can get this free ebook off of my site, the 7 Basic Truths of Wealth Building. So let's get started. The Ideal Wealth Workshop is something that I created, and I do this workshop usually about once a year, but I kind of tailored it today towards women and just towards the 7 basic truths of wealth building. One of my favorite quotes that I developed is, the more you know, the more your wealth will grow. And I think that cannot be, more appropriate of a quote for today's time, that we really do build our wealth. We really do make better decisions based on the amount of information that we know. And so when you hear that saying that knowledge is power, I actually believe that. And I remember being encountered with a quote from Blue Skies, this initiative called Only Blue Skies for Women. And they stated that by 2020, women will control more than $20 trillion in personal wealth assets, roughly more than 25% more than the national debt. And I thought, wow, we have all of this power. Do we know that we have this power? And the way that we tap into it and become empowered is to realize that we do have the power, and then we get this information and we start to see that this information makes a big difference in our lives and also in the lives of our families, and, building generational wealth and legacies and all of that great stuff that we as women want to do. And so as I started thinking about the basics of wealth building, there were some things, and we won't cover them all, but you will get the ebook, such as lifestyle. Having a daily lifestyle that you really think about your money, being very mindful of your money and how you're living your life around the money that you make and the money that you have and the things that you're trying to do. And so having kind of a healthy, wealthy lifestyle is something that, I feel you do on a day-to-day basis. And so wealth building for me has become a lifestyle. It's become a very second nature thing that I do, being very mindful of my money. And the thing that the way that I like to think about that is building wealth, $1, one decision at a time, and making good decisions about my money every day, so that I don't get any surprises kind of at the end, and it becomes just something that I do very natural now. The second thing is a good living. So, we all know people who earn, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million, whatever that number is. But we also know those people that live way beyond that amount. And so just because you make a good living, if you're not mindful of your money and making good decisions, it's really not going to matter. And so it goes back to, it's not how much you earn or how much you make, it's how much you keep. that we really want to, hone in on, and or making a good living is something that we want to do, but we also want to keep it all in perspective around how we're spending and being mindful of our money. Number 3, this is one of my favorites. I think that, having multiple streams of income could not be more important. We don't want to just depend on one stream of income. And for a lot of women, not only do we not want to depend on that, but we're just way too creative to just have one stream of income. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that item in particular, because I really want you to tap into starting those additional streams of income. And then the 4th thing is real estate. I was very fortunate to grow up around real estate. I grew up in, my grandfather used to always tell me about land, and he told me something at 12 years old that really changed my life, and it made me grow into learning real estate more, and I think having a sense of the power of ownership. And he said to me at 12 years old, he who owns the land calls the shots. Well, I'm 12. I didn't really know what that meant. But yeah, I kind of, wanted to call shots, but I didn't know what that meant either. But as I got older and I really began to understand the power of real estate, and when you think about he who owns the land calls the shots. So that's whether you're landlord, that's whether you're tax people, that's anybody that has some form of ownership of what we all need. So when I think about real estate, I think of it from a standpoint of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, air, water, shelter. We're all going to have some form of shelter in our lives, whether that's an apartment, a house, a condo, a tiny house, whatever it is. That's some basic need for everyone. And so whether we're talking about investing in real estate or just having real estate as part of your basic foundational wealth building is super important. So we're going to talk about that one a little bit more as well. And then number 5 is debt. Debt, as you're driving in your car or sitting at your computer or however you're absorbing this webinar today, I want you to say to yourself that you can't build wealth in debt. I can't build wealth in debt. Say that to yourself, because it's really almost like an oxymoron. When you have debt and you're financing your past, basically, is what debt is. It really forces it and really makes it very hard to focus on your future, let alone your day-to-day of where you are now, the present. And so, that's something that you definitely want to put some kind of plan in place and start to tackle that debt, because it really is, in the long run, going to hold you back from a lot of things that you're looking to do. And then number 6 is you want to live below your means. That pays dividends. And we think sometimes that we're making these big sacrifices in life, but really we're not. We're just being mindful of the things that are important to us in our future. And living below our means allows for us to do that. And you're going to, in the ebook, read about some really awesome people who have done things that by living below their means, they were able to make better decisions and, in essence, have a better, healthier lifestyle, because they're not, stressed about money. They're not, living off of every dime. It just makes a really big difference for you to really take a hard look at and commit to living below your means. And then the last thing is the credit. So, we're going to talk about credit a little more, because sometimes those numbers are very shocking around the amount of people that live with subpar credit, and just really talking today about why we have to improve that number and why we have to steer that in, directly in the eye and kind of deal with it once and for all. So when I think about wealth, I think of living today while planning for tomorrow. That is what comes to mind for me. Something that I challenge women in particular to do is to define wealth for yourself. My definition and your definition is totally different. And we know now that wealth is not about having $1 million. It's not really, in some cases, about a number. It's about making the right choices, understanding what your future looks like, understanding what are the things that are important to you. So here are 2 examples. I want to live comfortably today while planning for my child's college education and building my retirement. So comfortably, that word in itself is a very relative word. Comfortable for me is not necessarily the same as comfortable for you. But if I never really take a deep dive in understanding what that means and what my day-to-day lifestyle needs are, then I'm never really able to define that. And I'm always trying to keep up with something else. And at the end of the day, I'm trying to keep up with something that I don't really even want to do, that's not even important to me. But society has really told us that that should be important. But when you take control of your wealth building, you take control of your wealth, you'll begin to understand that, the decisions that you make every day have this major impact in your life. So if planning for my kids' college education is important to me, then every day when I'm making decisions about my money, I'm going to have that in my mind. I'm going to have in my mind that my retirement consists of me having, beach homes or, property all over that I can go travel to during my retirement. So if that's something that's important to me, I'm not going to throw away my daily money that's going to keep me from getting to those goals that I have for my life. However, I'm not going to deprive myself either. So you really have to, get that balance and understand what that comfortable is, because, I really do believe life is too short, and I'm never saying don't live, save up for tomorrow, don't do anything, don't have any fun today. This is not that kind of webinar. This is about having, some really asking some hard questions to yourself and really defining, making a definition for yourself. So the other one is, maybe I don't have any kids, and I say, I want to live comfortably today while paying off my house and saving for my retirement. That could be my definition of wealth. So now I'm very clear that if paying off my house is important to me, then maybe I want to set a goal where I could pay my house off in 15 years or in 20 years instead of 30. And then doing the numbers to understand what that would take. And so my day-to-day decisions now don't match the things that I want to accomplish in my future. I think you see how that works. And I challenge you to definitely come up with your own wealth building definition that's based on your lifestyle and what your interests are. I believe that we create a life that we love and that we have that power to do that. But being very mindful of it, because the things that we have to do is really understanding our budget, understanding our spending, no longer saying I don't understand the numbers, and being very mindful of our spending to create that life that you love. That is something that you have control of doing it, that you have control of doing. So really get a handle on all of your numbers and understand, what you're doing and what those numbers are in your life. So one of the things that I get all the time as I'm out speaking, when I say you have to build wealth, and somebody says, I live off of every dime that I have. So how can I build wealth? How can I do all these great things that you're saying? I understand I need to do them, but, it just comes across as like that's impossible. But one of the things I encourage people to do is to find more money. And how, can you find more money to create wealth? Well, that's a really good question, and this is one of my favorite parts of the webinar, because I love multiple streams of income. And it's back to, just being kind of these multifaceted people or women that we are. We really have this sense of we can do a lot of things, and, of course, all the studies have started to show that multitasking is not as glamorous as we kind of make it out to be. But at the same time, we do have a lot of different interests. And what I really encourage you to do is to discover your talents. What are those things that you love to do that you don't even, you would do them for free? You're always find yourself doing them. You're always, working on somebody's resume, helping someone get a job, and you're doing this at home at night. And, you don't mind. Everybody's coming to you, hey, will you help me, do this? Will you write that for me? You write so well. One time I was at a conference speaking, and this lady was there, and she was just, you could tell during the whole presentation, she was very kind of withdrawn from, the information. And afterwards, she came up to me and she said, I'm very concerned about my retirement. And she was like 52, 53. She had, every right to be very concerned. And so as we started talking about, some of the things that happened and being laid off and just some little, going through some little pockets and some rough patches like many women, like many of us do, we came up with, after about 10 minutes of talking, that on the weekends, she liked to sew. So she's like, on the weekends, I'm, sewing. And at first, I'm like, well, what are some things you like to do? And she's like, well, nothing. I don't go anywhere. I don't do anything, And a lot of the stuff was coming back to the money. I don't have the money. But, as we had this conversation, she said, I love to sew. I'm always sewing, drapes for, people. I hemmed up all the choir robes. And I'm like, and you're doing that for free? And she's like, yeah, I just love to sew. I just, love to do it. And she found it to be very relaxing. And so as we continued to talk, I said, well, you should look at how you can make money from this talent that you have. But she never really thought of it as a talent, so she wasn't valuing it. It was just something that she did, but no one else could sew all the choir robes. And so she really began to think about that and price that and really understand that that was something that she could make money from doing. Boy, did she start doing it. So her case study is in the ebook around how she started and, some of the things that she started to do. And she had way more money for retirement by the time she got there. And she's actually still going strong without any signs of slacking up in terms of retiring and what she's been able to take that talent and make it into. And then you want to ask yourself, the question number 3, how much money could I make doing it? You have to start putting a value on the things that you know and the information that you have, the things that you do very effortlessly. Someone else can't do it. I can't bake a cake, but, you have these award-winning recipes that maybe you bake cakes and you wrap them up and you take them to state fairs and, different things like that, to farmer markets, and you sell it. So I really encourage you to look at how you can start an additional stream of income and use that additional stream of income for kids' college or for your retirement. And a lot of times when people start these side things that they do to make extra money, before you know it, it kind of takes over and becomes their main thing. And so really just kind of, start slow and get into it. And, the question of what do you need to succeed, ask yourself that question. And the answer is probably not going to be money. Money I would have accepted, a few years ago before the internet and before this just ease of access to be able to get all the information. And YouTube, for heaven's sake, can teach you anything that you need to know about anything. So you really don't necessarily need the money. You just need to have the drive and be willing to do it and understand the importance of doing it and the detriment to not doing it. And that will get you going. And then this credit piece. When you look up, here's this definition, a numerical expression based on a level analysis of a person's credit files to represent the credit worthiness. What is that? That we have been reduced to 3 numbers that can tell everyone our likelihood of doing something and about our character and credit worthiness in so many ways. And the whole idea that now credit really drives so much in our society. And so it's we're in a place where it's like, yeah, it's right, yeah, it's wrong, yeah, whatever. Until it changes, that's what we deal with. And so we, want to make sure that we are able to live in this world of this, credit score driven world and be able to get favorable interest rates. And so in order to do that, we need to have a good credit score. And these favorable interest rates have a major impact on just our day-to-day lives. Number one, it can stop you from getting a job that, either you're going to explain your life away as to why your credit is down, and some of the things that happen that are very legitimate, and employers and people are sympathetic to and even empathetic to. So, be mindful of that, because you have two people that can go and buy the same car, same white car, nothing fancy, four wheels, and, one person can pay almost $200, $200 or $300 more than someone that doesn't have a favorable credit score, and the amount of interest that they're being charged. So when you put that over 4 years or 5 years of financing a car, 6 or 7, as long as they finance cars now, it really adds up to where you could pay easily $20,000, $30,000 more over the course of that loan, just in interest, based off of your credit score. So you do that same thing over buying a house and, paying higher rates for car insurance or anything like that, things that are credit driven. It can easily add up to where you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars for the cost of not having good credit. And so when I look at credit for a lot of women, and we're just kind of going through the analysis, and, I believe that you have, once again, the power of information that you can start to, restore your own credit. And sometimes it doesn't take you hiring a company or anything like that. It just takes you having some information to know what to do and understand how credit works and what your score is comprised of, and, how big of a weight does it matter paying your credit cards late versus the biggest weight of having over the limit or being above 50% on your credit. So it's a lot of factors that, once you understand how they work and how they impact, you can start doing little things that will make a big difference. And then there's also, of course, companies and things like that you could use as well. And so over 70% of Americans have what's considered subpar credit, and subpar credit is now defined as 680 or below. And so that's 70% of Americans that now all of the gauges are always raised. And so at some point it was like, oh, if you had a 620, that was, considered average or fine. Now just to be average is considered 680. But that's still subpar. You're still not going to get, your most favorable interest rates off of that. And you have 70% of Americans that are in that predicament. And it may be small things that could be done to make a big difference. So definitely, pull those reports. And, sometimes we don't want to look at stuff and we think we can't do anything about it, but you really, really can. So I encourage you to take a look at that, because the cost of bad credit can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's real estate and the wealth gap. I remember, a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I read this article, and it was in the Wall Street Journal. No, actually, sorry, it was in the Washington Post. And it talked about how this wealth gap is widening. And they really accredited the gap to be widening and large due to the lack of real estate ownership. And so just looking at taking two people, one buying real estate in their life and one not buying real estate in their life, that person could pay, easily $1 million, $1.5 million from renting, 50 years of their life. If we start renting at 25 or even 22 at the rate we go now, and we basically rent our whole life, that's easily 50, 60 years of just paying rent. And you think of that in terms of, the rental increases, it's not fixed, and, just at a modest amount of $1,500, $2,000 in rent, it really adds up. And so it's something that not even from a real estate investing standpoint that you want to look at, but just from a real estate foundational, buying your first property, home ownership, and, really settling into understanding that at some point it helps you to fix your numbers. And with the interest rates being so low, this is like 2017 that we're doing this webinar. And even though the interest rates are inching up, they're still at like record low numbers. So it's definitely a time for women to start looking at home ownership, even if it's like a townhome or a condo, because we're like, we don't want all the maintenance. And so they're making communities smaller. They're even making houses smaller. But it is something that you probably are more primed to buy than you think you are. So, and listen to this webinar. I really want you to, consider that. If you're not currently a owner, definitely consider looking at real estate and then learning more about it as well. Because the beauty of real estate that I see, it has really allowed me, in terms of building my wealth, it has afforded me a lot of different benefits. And I've used real estate in different aspects to build equity. It has been, one of the things that I use real estate for. And it's a matter of what it is that you're looking to do and what you're looking to build, use real estate for. And so building equity, it allows you to finance your dreams. We all know someone, I know tons of people who have used equity line of credit from their home to finance their company, to start their business, to buy investment property, to do all sorts of things that if you didn't have that, you would not be able to have access to it. So it's a lot of benefits of, real estate. And then using it as an investment vehicle to accumulate cash. I mean, maybe you're buying for short-term, what's considered fix and flips, and you're buying something and you want to make $10,000 or $20,000 or $30,000, as a short term to accumulate cash, and that could go towards paying off debt or, putting into retirement accounts. Also, you can use it for an additional stream of income. So especially when you start talking about rental property and stuff like that, that becomes an additional stream of income for you. And then in essence, you can use it for legacy building, for if you want to leave property behind to your family, for generational wealth building. So it's all kind of things that you can use real estate for, but definitely, encouraging you to learn more about real estate and the power of it. And then remember that you build wealth $1, one decision at a time. That, what I call kind of a mantra, has really made a big difference in my life and the lives of so many people that I know and that, write me and that, let me know the power of this information and just the thought process. Because at the end of the day, I really feel that you build wealth with your mindset. That's where the battle is really won or lost, and how you think about building wealth and being very mindful in your mindset. So, as you're out purchasing and you say, is this the best use of this dollar? And a lot of times the answer comes back to be, no, that is not. And but I ask myself that all the time, and now I just say, self, that that's not anything you need, and I'm able to walk away from it a lot more. So we're going to take a few questions here, but I just want to let you know that I do encourage you to connect with me. I would love for you to, get connected in our community. I have some great books, Real Estate and Wealth, Investing in the American Dream. And I said it's a great book because I actually use it as a resource guide, and I've seen so many people use it. It's just a step-by-step process, a step-by-step guide. So whether you're buying your first home or you're buying your first investment property or multiple investment properties, because just because you've bought one, you may not have, done it all the way right. And a lot of times people become what I call accidental real estate investors, where they own their current home and then they, buy something else and then they rent that one out. And that's how a lot of people, start with their first investment property. And then this book here, Self-Wealth for Women, it's an inspirational book and journal, and it has my story of my journey to wealth building and some of my goals and some of the ways that I've defined wealth over the course of my life. And it's also interesting because it's about 8 women that have shared some stories in there of different things that they've gone through and ways that they've built their wealth, whether, through paying off debt or buying real estate property or, the first home. I mean, so many wonderful stories that I feel are so inspirational in there. And then I host this radio show on Busy 1190 And that's online as well as local in the Atlanta market. But every Saturday at 9:30 a.m., the show comes on, and you could also go and download the previous shows, the archive shows from the website, from my website, soniabooker.com, and just listen to some of those shows because it really is a show about wealth building, and I call it Insight That Builds Wealth. And you walk away with, you learn something in the course of that information. And then I have the way that you get this, the free ebook, The 7 Basic Truths, is that you go to the website at soniabooker.com and go to the blog section. And there's some really great blogs in there to read about, but the blog from June, look for that date. And it's the 7 Basic Truths of Wealth Building. You download it there. Enjoy that ebook. And then also, if you're, on this webinar and you're interested in learning more about real estate and real estate investing in particular, I do have an upcoming real estate webinar called Ready, Set, Go. And it just gets you ready, gets you set, and then you'll be able to go once you have encountered this webinar. So it's a lot of fun. I do this one ever so often. And so I'm not really sure when the next one will be, but this one's June 15th at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can go to Eventbrite and use the code SAVVY, and you do get a discount, on that webinar. And then once again, listen to the radio show every Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm going to go back here, and we're going to take a few questions if we have time. Maggie, did we have any questions?
Yes, thank you, Sonia. We had some questions come in, and I'll remind everyone you can use the chat or you can send us an email. And one of the questions we have for you is, starting my own business to make more money seems really scary. I'm worried that if I quit my job, I'll give up a steady stream of income and good benefits, and I might not make enough money in my new venture. What tips do you have for future entrepreneurs?
I think that you're right to be terrified. It's sometimes I think, how in the world have I been an entrepreneur for 20 years? I've had one job in my lifetime, and I can tell you that in my time of being an entrepreneur, it has really been very difficult, very challenging, but I would not take anything for it. But if I were to do it now in the way that I advise a lot of women to do it, because I encounter more women than you probably think that are in your boat of, I should be doing much more. I have this passion. I have all these other things that I want to do. What I really encourage women to do is to get a plan, write your plan down for that, and start to use your job to kind of fund these dreams that you have. So start working on that business on the side and building it up, and, using the income from your job stability to whether it's getting other additional loans to put in place for your business or, for startup. And, doing it on the side and then building up and perfecting kind of the model for the business so that eventually, whether that's a goal of a year or 2 years, you're able to make a transition into doing it full time without having to just take a big, just a big jump. And sometimes in these transition periods, we are put into where we have to, take this leap of faith, but always know that you're ready. And you're having these fill-ins and these push moments because it's something that that you have to do. It's just a matter of really planning and setting a date. You have to be willing to set a date. If that is December 31st, 2016, but, go through each month. Like, I'm going to, put a business plan together and start as if you're doing it now, and just start doing everything and setting those hard dates to be able to walk away, but to also have had a foundation and have it more ease, seamlessly in that transition period. And good luck.
Okay. All right. Great. Thanks. Another question we have for you is, when investing in real estate, do you recommend starting a separate corporation?
Yes, absolutely. And so from a standpoint of liability, which means you want to separate yourself from the liability of having property for many reasons, legal. But the biggest entity, the best entity that's recommended is to do it as an LLC, a limited liability corporation, for holding real estate. And then just depending on what you're looking to do in the long run with real estate, you can, get into trust and put property into trust for, long-term asset protection and stuff like that. But just the initial part of what you're doing, buy it and have it and put in an LLC. And there's some information in the book, Real Estate and Wealth, about that and how to set those up and set up one, for each individual property that you own for liability protection.
Okay, thanks. Another question here is, I recently got married for the first time. I'm 46 years old. We now own a home together. We want to use the house as a rental and purchase another home to live in. Should we stay in the home until it's paid or move now and rent while there's still a mortgage?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. So the answer is do it now. Go ahead and move to the new place because you have all the, the benefit of the low interest rates that we talked about. So you don't want to miss the window of opportunity of taking, advantage of those. So go ahead and look at that place that's, perfect for you and your new husband to live in. And then either look at refinancing the property you have now that's going to become your rental property. Look at refinancing that to get a lower interest rate. Or if you have a low interest rate on it, then, just make sure that it's able to be covered by the rental amount so that in the long run you have someone else paying that house off for you. And I also encourage you to look into getting a management company and don't become a landlord if you don't have to. So definitely do the numbers and make sure that the amount of rent will be able to cover the mortgage amount and hopefully make a little extra for your reserve for that property. And then go ahead and, look at moving now into that place and not renting and then going and rent. And, you have the value right now of having two assets, and that's what you want to really focus on and not, miss these different windows of opportunities. But do your numbers and your research on getting a rental and looking at a management company and moving forward with setting all that up.
Okay. All right, those are the questions we have, but we just got a comment and I'll read it for you. Maybe you have something to share about this. It's Sonia, I cannot agree with you more with respect to living well below your means. I earn $150,000 a year, but I manage my cash flow to live off of $4,600 a month, and I save $48,000 every year in my 401k. I did this by purchasing a co-op in 2003 and refinancing with a 3.25% 15-year mortgage. I will have my mortgage paid off by age 62. I'm projected to have $120,000 per year to live on in retirement in 7 years, and I live very well and don't feel deprived. So
I love that. Yay. Talk about, somebody's doing it right. I mean, that is what it's all about. And you didn't hear her say, I make $1 million. And that's what we really have to get focused on. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep and how you use the money that you have, and really being able to set those things that are important to you, whether it's travel, whether, she already has her retirement planned out and know that $120,000 is the amount that she wants to live. And I bet if she wanted to and, put some more pen to the paper, she'll probably have the house paid off before 62. And so it's just a matter of being mindful and knowing what you want. But that is a wonderful job. Kudos to the wealth builder.
Yes, congratulations. All right, so those are the questions we have. So I want to thank you, Sonia, for an excellent presentation, and I want to thank everyone for asking really great questions and also that comment as well. We hope you'll be joining us again, and we will be sending out all of the information that Sonia has here on her slides, so you'll have that delivered right to your inbox. Thanks again so much, Sonia.
Thank you, Maggie.
Bye-bye.
Bye.